The call came at 2 a.m., a nurse's voice, low, hesitant. "Your niece is here. She's alone." I was out of bed before the sentence ended. The drive blurred, red lights, empty streets, my pulse drumming louder than the tires on asphalt. When I reached the hospital, she sat small in the corner of the waiting room, a blanket draped over her shoulders, eyes swollen from tears she hadn't let fall. "Mama drove away," she whispered when she saw me. "Her new husband said, 'I'm a problem.'" Her arm was bruised, her knees scraped. She clutched her backpack like it was the only anchor left in the world. I signed the papers. No hesitation, no permission needed. The ink felt heavier than any vow I had made. She was mine now. And so I raised her. 10 years later, on a gray evening, a knock came. When I opened the door, he stood there, the man who once called her a problem, her stepfather. "Give me my girl," he said. Behind me she appeared, taller now, stronger, but her eyes still carried the memory of abandonment. She looked at him once, long enough to make him shift his weight. Then she spoke. Betrayal rarely happens in one violent strike. It begins in whispers, in neglect, in the way someone looks away instead of reaching out. Her mother had chosen him over her own child. That was the first betrayal. I remembered standing in the hospital corridor, staring at fluorescent lights, trying to understand how a mother could drive away from her bleeding daughter. It made sense later. The man was controlling, cold. He wanted her mother, not the responsibility that came with her. He convinced her to cut ties, to abandon blood for convenience. I had tried to reason with her once, told her she'd regret it. She told me I was too attached, that children were resilient. I stopped calling, stopped asking, and my niece stopped waiting. The betrayal hardened into silence. Years without a word. Years where the man's shadow lingered though he was gone. Now here he was again, standing on my porch, demanding what he once discarded. I didn't react that night. I listened, observed. His words were smooth, rehearsed. He spoke of rights, of family, of how much he had changed. But his eyes betrayed him, sharp, calculating, watching me for weakness. I began quietly, as I had learned long ago. Public records, his employment history, his financial records, a string of failed businesses, debts, one domestic complaint buried under bureaucracy. His life was chaos wrapped in a suit of false confidence. I checked her mother too, still with him, still silent, no calls, no letters. At night, I watched my niece from the doorway of her room. She studied late, drew sketches, wrote in journals she kept locked. I never pried, but her shoulders told me the weight she carried. He was circling back into her life not out of love, but need, financial, emotional, control. She was no longer a child. She was independent, smart, someone he couldn't mold anymore, and that was what he feared. The truth arrived not in a letter, but in silence. A lawyer called. A custody petition had been filed. He claimed abandonment was temporary, that he was ready to step up, that I was merely a caretaker, not a father. I showed her the papers, placed them on the table between us. She read quietly, her hand steady, her jaw tightened. But no tears came. When she looked at me, her voice was even. He wants control, not me. I nodded. That night, she placed her journals in front of me. She had documented everything. Memories, quotes, the night her mother drove away, the words he had spat, problem, burden, mistake, evidence, in ink, from a child's hand, undeniable. I didn't need to prepare a defense. She already had. When he arrived for the hearing, he wore confidence like a mask, but confidence cracks under truth. I sat silent as my niece took the stand. She was calm, steady, each word sharpened by memory. She recited his abandonment without trembling. She spoke of years he never called, never checked, never cared. She pulled out the journals, her handwriting a weapon sharper than any blade. He tried to interrupt, to object. His voice shook, his composure frayed. The judge listened, expressionless. When it was over, I finally spoke. One sentence. You left her once. You don't get a second chance. The gavel struck. Custody dismissed. His petition dead. And in that moment, he wasn't a threat anymore. He was just a man undone by the truth he created. That night, she sat beside me on the porch, quiet, the air cold but clear. He doesn't own me, she said finally. No, I replied, he never did. The stars above looked sharper than they had in years. My hands rested still, no longer clenched. Her mother would remain silent. Her stepfather would retreat, broken by exposure. But she would move forward, free. As for me, I felt no pity, no grief, just clarity. I had signed the papers 10 years ago in desperation. But tonight, in silence, I signed them again in my heart. This time, not as caretaker, but as father.